Hey crafty babes, Andrea here. I have so much to share in the second half of my 2022 memory keeping. I started off 2022 in a ringed 6x8 album from Citrus Twist, and I finished the year back in a notebook because, well, I just really missed the notebook. So I grabbed this Fringe notebook. It is well worn and thick. I still have lots of room in here, and I still do have probably about a dozen mini page kits that need to go in here, but I figured I'd show it now because I have a lot in here. So this is gonna be basically like June through the end of the year with some things missing. And this is not in chronological order. It's not too tight of a chronological order, but it still does flow, you know, kind of like through the months, but it's not specific dates or anything. So pretty loosey-goosey, like I kind of said I wanted to do. And it's also just, it includes a lot. So a lot of different things, like for instance, pages like this where I'm just playing with color, playing with supplies, and I've got some fabric hexies here and doily, just a little bit of texture and, you know, just kind of some just stuff. I like it. There's also going to be some blank pages that I just haven't glued together yet, but for the most part, they are all set. This is a grid situation. This is a typical unpocket page for me, with extra room up at the top. I can kind of take things off of the, you know, almost like out of the pockets, as much as these aren't pockets, but you know, we all know what the layout is like. This is another really fun format when I print pictures that are this 2x4 size. Sometimes I will leave this extra space at the bottom. Sometimes you'll see that there are photos that I take all the way down with just a white border around them. Kind of just depends on the photo. And I usually, well, I was doing this for those types of photos or those groups of photos that I just had a lot of, where it wouldn't make sense to just only pick a few. So they fit really perfect on this layout, this, you know, this size of the Fringe notebook. And I can also take 3x4 cards and like trim them down. I just trim a 1/2 inch off of each side so that it ends up being 2 wide and 4 tall, and it's perfect. I can do that with pattern paper, cards, anything. It's been super fun. This is another layout just like that. I just love it because it leaves a full space up top for a really fun title, and then just leaves a lot of extra room to go outside of those grids. A non-grid, which, you know, I still love to have things nicely lined up, but what was cool about this is I was just practicing using a brand new stamp set from Carrie Bradford, and I just made this as like one of those warm-up crafts, and then it was just so fun and pretty that I ended up feeling like it needed to go with a photo. So I did, for me and my week, this picture of me and just some stamps and fun supplies. This is one of those other things that I love doing, is just picking one color and kind of just going with it. And I did some really fun layered stamping with this one, and I really wanted to use both of these acrylic pieces from Color Cast Designs, and I just, working on a grid, it just wasn't working, and so I just kind of had this fun idea of having just the one color kind of blend into the next color and making it just like one photo. So that worked out really well because this is just a 3x4, and I just trimmed these two to kind of just fit. Made a little messy situation with drawing a little border and adding some black stamped elements. This was super fun, one of my very favorites. I love, love, love doing small, tight little grids like this with Kelly Bangs in 2022 did, was it 21? Am I using... No, I think it was 22, and she did every single month. She did a whole set of 2x2s. I loved them so much. I still have so many of them, but you'll see them spread throughout here. And I just love having so many little itty bitty places to add elements and stamp on things. And the photos in this situation are, let me see. like 1 and a little bit over a half by 2.5. I don't print this size photo very often anymore, but it really helps when you're doing, you know, smaller pages or pages with smaller elements. Like here, this is that same size. And originally I was printing them this size because I was also using like a memory planner type of template for my family documenting. So, and I love this size because you can fit so many things on one page. It's kind of my favorite. So you're going to see a lot of these. I've changed in my 2023 documenting. I haven't done too many of this smaller size things, but I think I'd love to go back now that I'm seeing all of this. This was a really fun one that, you know, kind of combines the 3x4 cards plus something really fun with little tiny photos. And I have a process video for this one. It is actually just a reel on my Instagram, so not a full process video, like a, you know, no talking or anything. But you can watch that if you want to see how this page came together. This one was also fun. I just loved documenting my decorating because I feel like it changes, even though like I keep the same types of things. I just feel like it changes and where I put things because my furniture might be in a different place or whatever. And I just love looking back on it. This was also just something I really loved. I'm not typically documenting just one photo. Usually I have a lot of other photos or, you know, like quotes or things that I'm including in it. And so I only had just this one photo with the graphic and I thought, okay, I just need to make a list. So I used my very favorite Felicity Jane paper. I have been hoarding it, but I had to use it because, well, I don't really hoard things, but if I like something, I get it in multiples and then I use it so that I can, you know, obviously play with it. Remember, hoarded supplies are not being used, are not being able to play with their friends and not getting to come to their full potential. So don't hoard your favorite supplies, use them, have fun with them, and then you can love them forever. I was so excited to finally get to use this fun snack plate graphic that Kelly designed for one of my scrapbook or one of my crafty retreats. And it was part of the printables. It was just so much fun. And so I paired that with some other things like from her office type collection and some things from issue number 28, the January release of Crafty Babe magazine. I've been really into lavender lately, and so I had painted my nails with like a gray lavender white kind of ombre situation, and documented also this like pretty lavender hoodie that I have. And then just so happened that these like coral and peachy colors really fit well with the purple, and I used some Felicity Jane stuff and this doily was perfect. And just the combination of these colors, it all came together while I was making a mini page kit. And that's the beauty of making those little page kits, is that you just have an opportunity to kind of like get into a groove of finding a lot of things that fit well together in your stash. And then it turns out to be just super fun to use your stuff. I had to make sure I documented this contrast of photos from 1984 of me getting my very first sewing machine when I was 4, and then sewing on my mom's vintage hand-me-down Pfaff sewing machine that I use in my crafting. And just the fun difference between then and now. We end up doing what we love to do as a child, right? Isn't that great? This is the very first layout I ever did with my brand new Me and My Week printed digital insert that's available in my shop. So the Me and My Week hashtag, I think I started it in like late 21, and it's been really a fun way for a bunch of us to keep up with just kind of like our weekly documenting. And so what I did on this layout is I've got all of the week numbers up here, so I can just circle one, like I stamp this circle around it. You could highlight, you could do anything, like, and you can stamp a little heart on top of it or whatever. There's room for like your top 3 wins or maybe your top 3 losses, however you want to document things. There's room here for every single day, like if you wanted to document one thing a day. And then there's this empty space here. Well, it's not empty, it's lined, but you could, you know, document over here. And then you can just, wherever you aren't documenting, then you fill in with like ephemera and photo. Okay, I was not like the biggest fan of this page when I made it. It was like the first page I made when I was starting to like create for that particular day. While I loved the colors and I love, you know, everything about it, just, you know, the colors aren't very typically me. They're a little bit more on the muted side, and it wasn't like some stellar, or what I thought was a stellar layout. But when I posted it on Instagram, the feedback I got was so surprising. It was very well loved, to my surprise. So that's always fun when you're not sure anybody's gonna like it, but then everybody likes it. So that was really fun. There is also a reel for this layout. And let me tell you, I cut out all of the times that this got rearranged, and it was probably about 4 different times I rearranged everything before I landed on this, which is very close to the way that it started out. But anyway, I've got a little bit of a hidden, not hidden, it's just I didn't have, you know, room for the journaling. And so I made room by just making a little hinge with a piece of washi. Literally all it is just a piece of washi taped right here, and you just fold it back and forth. So that's that. I just recently shared this on my Instagram feed. This was fun, just a way to document routines, and issue number 29 of Crafty Babe magazine is all about routines and things. And this is something that I, from the beginning, kind of like started documenting and started capturing things about my routines, hoping that some way, somehow I would be able to work those into my documenting and in my notebook. And this is just one of the fall routines that kind of finally came together for me, was taking my vitamins. Here is something that I kind of started doing when making the little mini page kits, is like anything that was left over, any photos that just kind of ended up in a pile that didn't have a story, didn't have an exact reason to be scrapbooked, kind of ended up in a pile. And then I kind of called it like the misfits, but then I would go through them and see if I could find any kind of similarities or way that I could group them together that would make sense on a page. And it just so happened that these photos were all like moments that made up my life, and it kind of worked. So there's, you know, like things I was wearing during this time of the year. And I mean, this is like kind of the beginning of fall. Did I not date this? I feel like it's September or October, and around here it's still, you know, fairly warm. So wearing shorts, and how I painted my nails, and just being obsessed with, you know, listening to all the classic country songs I grew up listening to as a kid. Fall is always a good time to start watching Twilight again. And my favorite, you know, oil blends, working puzzles, new skincare, like all that kind of stuff. Like, it may not have its own story, but as a whole, they mean something. So I was really happy that I could make all of these photos work together, and it was fun. This page, oh my gosh, I love it so much. Not only do I love the photo because it's me and my boys, and I hardly ever get photos of me and them together. This is when we were in Wyoming as a family on our very first family vacation. This was just so much fun to have like the idea of a grid as the foundation, but then just kind of like going outside of the lines and making things overlap, using the empty space for like a fun little ephemera collage. I like doing this with stamps a lot too. And I do start doing that when I start getting into stamp layering in the future, further on in this book and in my future books. So this was just super fun. Also made from a page kit. So definitely go back and watch my page kit video, because it just is so helpful. It's been so good for me to be able to batch that process of making the kits all at once, because you get into a rhythm of looking for things and matching color and having your photos match your supplies. Well, to me is like very important. But then when you're ready to sit down and create, oh my gosh, having a page kit already is like the bomb. And actually all of the pages that you're going to see for the rest of this book are made from those page kits. So highly recommend. 5 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 10, definitely recommend. This was so fun to make because I had just an odd kind of combination with the brown and the red and the pink, but I was determined to like find the right shades and add those little bits of brown and kind of like tan. And then this font was so close to Kelly's Legit Alpha font that she made for Illustrated Faith. And so I just kind of like made it very similar to the way that it is styled on the shirt. So that was really fun too. And then just some stamping layers was super fun, and just playing with some different colors and trying to match my Distress Oxide colors to these perfect shades. So not always perfect, but you know, always working toward just making it complete, number one, and an enjoyable process. I had so much fun with this one too. Do I never, like, there are times when I don't have fun, but just know, I'm probably going to say I had so much fun making this because creating really is just super fun. But just having like one major focal point on the page is something I don't typically strive for, but nothing else really fit. Like, there were some other cards I had picked out to go in this page kit, and I started out doing, you know, like my typical grid, but then it fell flat for me. And I don't know if it was just because I had created already a bunch of grid layouts in this, you know, the batch that I was currently working on at the time, or if I just, you know, was feeling something new. But it just felt so much better to do like this tucking, clustering kind of thing. And then I was going to include, this quote was actually on a meme, like a quote that I had screenshot and printed out, but it just, that the difference in sizes was, this was a 2x2, this was a 3x4, and this was a 4x6, and I just couldn't get them to feel right. Like, they just didn't go together nicely like I normally can get, you know, squares to play nice. But so as the moment that I decided not to use it and to figure out how to just write it in instead, everything just came together. So sometimes you just have to change your mind, but I only had to make that one decision, and then everything else like played out perfectly. Whereas, you know, if I had stuck with needing to include that square, I might have ended up with a layout that I didn't like as much. And who doesn't love scrapbooking about their parents? I mean, I just love this photo so much, and had these cute elements from a kit from Kelly called Southern Charm, which had a country flair to it. The red and blue was very challenging to work with, but I love a good challenge, because when colors don't necessarily come together in the supplies that are like provided to you, you have to improvise. And that's what I did. So thankfully I have, you know, a good stash of cards sorted by color that I can kind of go to and find just that right shade, you know what I mean? So this was so fun because it's an old photo of them from, you know, their early days in marriage. And I remember them being like this and going out country western dancing on a Friday night and leaving us girls at home with a babysitter or with my grandma. And my mom made all of her dresses, and, you know, just, they were always adorable. So that was fun. I, again, grid situation, grid foundation, right? But like with a little bit of flair, because I had different sizes of things, which just, you know, helped make things a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun. And so I used just some empty space for a little bit of a cluster, and letting things fall off of the, you know, the typical card or the photo, and that's always super fun. Probably one of my favorite color combinations for the fall that I had worked on. Just absolutely loved the way that this one came together with the browns, and normally neutrals are not my thing, but I'm learning to love them. So we've got like a studio calico card and wood piece from Color Cast Designs. I've got like a stamp here from Illustrated Faith. I've been working with everything here, and it just all came together. I do actually think I have a reel on not this page coming together, but this page kit coming together. I'll try to link all of those to the description. We'll see if I can make that happen. This one I am going to be putting out a process video for because it really was a fun one. It didn't really start out like this. I was gonna try to do a grid on both pages, but just turned out that like a nice focal cluster was what this page needed instead. And I also loved being able to play off of these like bright greens in the photo and use like just the right green. I think this was either bundled sage or peeled paint. And of course, I love testing them, prior to make sure that it's just the right shade. This one was really fun. I can't wait to show this one to you and how it all came together. One page that is not really my favorite, how it came out, but still love it just because, again, photos of me and my kids, I absolutely love. And I really enjoyed using the yellow and the blue and the like coral pinky color together. But it was just a little bit of a challenge because there were elements that I really, really was forcing myself to use and making them work. And I do think that it ended up just fine. But just, I have negative feelings about it because it was a difficult page to make, which makes no sense, but how it goes. And the last page, oh, no, not the last page, second to last page that I have done in this notebook grid situation, but again, with a little bit of flair. I took just a small strip to fit over here and over here because I had like 2 different size photos. And so I basically just made like a grid, but made like, okay, 3x4s, skinnier and even skinnier, so I just made them like fit so that it felt like it was a whole cohesive situation. And then of course, tons of stamping. I didn't layer them necessarily, but having just a kind of cluster of stamps is like one of my very favorite things to do. And I love doing this kind of thing with stamps from completely different manufacturers, different sets, that kind of thing. And then of course you gotta have some labels and you gotta staple them. I mean, I just feel like that's kind of a rule. Okay, final page that I have completed for the end of 2022 is just these 3, or actually 4 photos of me from our Wyoming trip. And just, this is completely unfinished. I actually put this together over about like a 4-hour period while we were in the, at the craft house. I'm having a hard time with words. At the craft house at my last Crafty Babe getaway. And I just couldn't, like, I had picked all the things out. It was a page kit. My goal was just, once I had kind of started putting it together, it was such a struggle because I was just having a hard time creating at that particular time of the retreat. It just wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. So I just committed to getting the cards down once I figured out where they should have been placed and once I decided on some of the ephemera placement. But after that, I was just like, that's all I'm doing. I'm shutting it down. So I do have to go back and finish this one, but I also have all this extra room. I'm definitely not going to fill this all up because there's just no way I'm going to use all of these pages. So when I get to the end, I will probably end up sharing a little bit more about the end with you guys. But I've got several pages left to finish. But I'm just so happy with how this turned out. Love being back in the notebook. It's super fun. And yeah, just I hope you're having fun crafting and creating and documenting your world and your life. Thanks for joining me here. I hope you've been inspired, even just a smidge. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.